Okay, we should be live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our chat with Renato Losio. Not new to this channel. Renato is
Hi,
a cloud
Fedora.
expert. How are you, Renato?
I'm all right. Quiet day here in Berlin, but all okay.
Great. But CentOS users are not okay.
Who is okay right now?
No one is okay in 2020, but okay, jokes apart. We wanted to have these live discussions. We didn't prepare absolutely anything, at least not together. And the topic of this live is the situation of CentOS, because as you may know, CentOS basically was declared dead. So
That's not how marketing sold it.
Well, yes, but basically the new project from Red Hat is called CentOS Streaming. So, but the name is absolutely misleading. It's something else, isn't it?
Well, let's say I'm definitely not an operating system expert, but as a lazy user of a distribution that was the de facto standard for any enterprise project, whatever you keep the same name to do something else, the feeling is not what you used to be. Was not. I mean, at the end of the day, we wanted to use that because it was a cheap way to, well, a free way to use Red Hat. If that's not what it is anymore, you can do the amazing product. I'm not saying that the new product is not going to be great, but it's something else. So maybe it's going to serve a different audience, but definitely most of the people that were using it for that particular reason, the reliability, the enterprise direction, and what it represents, a way to say, okay, instead of using Red Hat with support, I'm using that one. Well, that's not there anymore. You kept the same name, but you are offering something else now. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, in my opinion, the thing is CentOS was a downstream project from Red Hat Enterprise Linux, right? So there was Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8, and then it was forked, and the fork was CentOS 8. But now, with CentOS Streaming, the relationship will be the opposite. So CentOS Streaming will be upstream. So it means less stable.
Well, it means less stable. It may be my cover scenario that people need newer stuff or whatever. But if the goal is, for example, in my case, was mainly, okay, I have a product that I want to certify that works on Red Hat and works on Red Hat 7, works on Red Hat 8 or whatever. Well, that's not the case anymore. I mean, that's not what I can do. I mean, I can still do it with the 7 for other 3 years, but with the 8, next year is the last one. And going forward, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's not very clear who is going to come up as the obvious successor, because someone is going to take the space. That's the feeling I have as an ignorant, is people are asking for something. That something is not going to be there anymore. Well,
okay. Before the next subtopic, which is, of course, which alternatives we have for our servers, especially. But before that, what do you think about Fedora? And I explain why I asked this. Because previously, Fedora was the upstream project for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and no one explained. But I mean, it cannot be anymore, because the new upstream is CentOS Streaming. And first question, will there be a future for Fedora? I hope so, but even if so, will there be interest around it now that it's not upstream anymore?
I have absolutely no clue. I mean, in the sense, I'm a lazy user. So from a pure home perspective, my laptop runs on a Ubuntu because I'm lazy. I want an easy distribution. I want something that works with most of the installation. So that's what I have. For enterprise products, for when I have a project to deploy to a customer, I want something that is compatible with Red Hat, because I want to say that if you install it as a customer, well, you can do it on Red Hat if you have already a license or if you want to buy it. So I never considered Fedora because Fedora was not covering that case. It was an upstream, so. And that's exactly what is happening now. So I will not consider the upstream, the new stream offered by IBM, Red Hat, or how you want to call it now, because it's something else. It's not what you used. I mean, maybe I'm a corner case scenario, but I don't think I am. I mean, I am someone who needs to cover enterprise, enterprise and to use Red Hat, and that was the perfect match. Of course, match probably was not bringing enough money to Red Hat, but that's a different topic. And if you deploy on the cloud, whatever, public cloud, private cloud, whatever, you have other option, but as well, you then bundle yourself with the cloud provider. And if you want to have something that you can have both in the cloud and outside the cloud, that's nothing really that obvious right now, at least not on the major cloud providers as a solution. I mean, there's a space there that is the good thing is something is gonna change, something is gonna happen. I mean, at least to me as a really ignorant in the field, that's, the change is big enough to open many scenarios as well. So.
And I think that something is happening. But let me say hi to the people who wrote hello in the chat. So DB Demon and Vadim. And okay, so what's happening? Well, I see that first of all, there is a new project, but it's still just a future project, right? So basically, the creator of CentOS started this new project called Rocky Linux. It seems interesting. It kind of reminds me the history of MariaDB because, as a lot of people know, I mean, it's similar, right? So the creator of MySQL left Oracle to create MariaDB, just like the creator of CentOS left CentOS. Well, because CentOS is dead, of course, but anyway, he left it and started something else. And his plan is not to be sponsored by companies anymore, as far as I understand. But the thing is, well, there is no ETA yet, so we don't know when it will come to light. It could even fail, or maybe it could succeed, but maybe the quality could not be what we expect. So we'll see.
Well, I think that's as well as a user is a very interesting time, because you have basically two options. One is not panic, but okay, something is happening. I need to jump on something different today. Okay. It's like somehow the ship is sinking. I need to get out. Now the problem is you can get out and jump randomly and hope that you get the right safety boat somehow that you cannot really see, or you can hope you get the right one. Or you can say, okay, I'm going to wait a bit longer and see if something is it's a bit of a gamble, but it's the same way as you can gamble that Rocky is going to be the future. You can gamble and say, wait, I have still 1 year ahead. I know I need to get out, but maybe let's see who is going to be the one leading that. Or see if a major player comes in the space, if you trust the major player, because that's the other problem. I mean, of course, Oracle as well promised to deliver something, but who's going to trust Oracle in doing that? So
yeah,
that's a different topic. But I mean,
not many people would like to depend on Oracle.
But yeah, that's. I mean, as I'm mainly a guy working with cloud and mainly working with AWS, and as well, when I think like what's going to be my obvious distribution going forward, I have no clue, because I mean, if you want to take advantage of all the new stuff that as well the cloud provider offer in terms of in terms of hardware, well, there's all this about IRM, all the Graviton stuff that is cheaper. So the future is that, I mean, the cloud provider never deprecate the old stuff, but they make it price-wise that makes no sense to use it. You need to switch. And What operating system are you going to use? Well, you can, of course, go with their operating system that, of course, they offer, like Amazon is offering their own Amazon Linux. That is a fork, again, of a Red Hat at the end. But then you don't have that compatibility anymore. You're stuck to them. I mean, you cannot say to someone outside or Amazon, oh, well, this is the distribution. It doesn't really work the same way.
Yeah.
Would you stick to CentOS or Red Hat? Well, no, because it's not going to happen in 1 year time. You'll have to change. You need to find something else. But what is going to be that something else? I don't know. I personally don't know. I mean, you can stick to version 7 for the next 3 years, but that as well is a bit of a gamble because, yes, that's stable. That's supported for, I think, 2024. Maybe. But as well, for example, for new hardware, that's basically only partial support. Running it on Graviton 2, for example, is a nightmare. So who knows? I mean, that's in some ways scary, in some ways interesting. And that's why I say I hope that someone is coming up with something soon and something quite successful. Yeah.
Well, another company which came up with something is CloudLinux.
Mm-hmm. I read the article.
Yeah. Okay. Initially, when the news of CentOS death was very fresh, I read someone suggesting that people could switch to CloudLinux, and I simply thought, well, this is crazy because CloudLinux is designed for a specific type of customers, right? Which is hosting providers, basically, maybe also cloud providers, but I mean, its main feature is isolation of the different programs, and also it's not free. It has a low cost.
Well, that's very true. Yeah, but still, yeah, in that concept of we want to pay nothing, yes.
Not but then I saw that actually CloudLinux, the company, came out with
a fork.
Which is called Lennox.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it's free. I'm not sure if it is completely open source or not. They basically do it, in my opinion, to promote their product.
That's fair enough. I mean, if you think, as we said before, you have a product that is, I mean, it's not dying, it's changing. It leaves a piece of the market, a big piece of the market available. Any other provider of distribution that is a company that is making money in that field, as a minimum, is going to look in that space and see, can we do it ourselves? I guess. I mean, I think that's how it sounds to me, that approach is we're going to offer something else that is going to replace what they were doing. And we are not the big company, so you can trust us. Somehow that's the feeling.
Yeah. And it's totally legit, yes, for a vendor to do that. But for a user, I mean, I would prefer to use a system which is released by a community, and the community doesn't try to sell me something else. It's not an ethic problem. It's just a practical problem. It's better to depend on a community.
But what are you using today? Are you sticking to only one distribution? Are you using multiple? What are your customers in average using? Mainly or in CentOS 7?
Well, when I choose the distribution, my default is Ubuntu. But of course, this doesn't always happen because customers may have something already, and they don't want to switch to something else, of course. And I don't even try to convince them. So actually, the second use distribution between our customers is CentOS.
Probably okay.
Most of them use Ubuntu, but probably all the others use CentOS.
I'll actually say that I was using Ubuntu just on my laptop, but I've realized that it's actually, I was saying live because anytime, as I say, I'm lazy. Anytime I need to start up a EC2 machine or whatever with HTTPD or whatever else to do a WordPress, for example, I tend to stick to any bitnami package that is actually on top of Ubuntu. So at the end, it's convenience. You go for whatever it works for you, whatever is there available, whatever you trust as well as a company, and you trust that it's going to be there tomorrow, more or less. That's a bit the idea. But
yeah. Well, Carl posted in the chat a link to a Wikipedia page, Red Hat Enterprise Linux derivatives. But I wouldn't consider all of them. I would just consider a few of them, right? I mean, I'm sure that the list is very, very long, even if I didn't click.
Well, let's say that I can probably do my own fork, but I was pretty sure that no one wants to use it and trust me because I don't even know how to build it. But that's a bit. I think that the approach is is not just a technical aspect, is as well as you say the community, a company aspect. You need to trust who is behind. That is one of the hardest part because that's I think one of the hard part in the next few months is to figure out of the many who are going to come up with an idea, or more than an idea, who are going to come up saying, we are going to cover that space. Who I'm going to trust? Who is going to get more followers? Who is going to be really trusted? In that sense, I say, I doubt that it's going to be Oracle or a large company, but not because they are devil, but because, well, maybe they are, but it's pretty hard that a community-focused project is going to follow them. That's the feeling I have as an ignorant base.
No, I agree.
And then I think the other aspect can be as well that a cloud provider can come up with a fork, but more not because they want to take that market, but for two reasons. I'm thinking about Google, I'm thinking about Amazon. Is they have two problems. One is usually they try to support a lot of hybrid deployment. Most of the large customers don't even have just cloud or just data center. They have a mix. So those customers need support. And that means that they have to offer them support in their distribution, they might do it. That's the feeling I have going forward.
Yeah.
And the second one is most of the cloud providers want to annoy IBM. So if they can find a way to offer something that is going to get that market and hurt them where the money is coming in, well, I wouldn't be surprised if they take that space as well.
Yeah, it's possible. I think it's also probably easier for them. I mean, if Amazon releases some new features, it could be easier to support these features on a system produced by them.
Well, that's what they are doing with Amazon Linux. They say it's a fork where we have removed what we don't need, blah, blah, blah. Whatever is better or not, doesn't matter. That's our own package. And that's the first one we support. That's the one that if you have problem, you can say, there's a bug, we fix it for you. I mean, kind of. We promise we're going to fix it for you. But of course, you have no option to take it outside the cloud. The big gamble is, will they ever provide something that is available outside as well? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because at the moment to use it outside, I think I'm not an expert. I haven't tried, but I assume you have to use anyway their proprietary or either virtual machine or put it on top of I don't know how it really, but it's not really that you download the package and see the code. That's not how it works.
Yeah. There's a nice question from Rajendra who says, there is a trend, open source software to community funding, to look for commercial funding, to take over of open source software. Why do
final step usually is the big corporation gamble, like IBM taking Red Hat and whatever.
Yes. And the question is, why do open source software stick to being community driven only? Do you want to answer?
No, I have no clue. I leave the answer to you, that you are the expert.
I think simply because a community is a set of people with the same interests. So a vendor does not have the same interests I have. Okay, so a vendor wants to make money. Personally, I don't want the vendor to I mean, I'm okay with the vendor making money, but it's not my goal, right? I want to be able to have an open system, interoperable, stable, fast, and so on. A vendor could simply disagree for their strategies.
But why do you think is happening usually? I mean, why do you see that trend happening so often?
I think that the cloud made quite difficult for open source projects to survive. I mean, when the challenge was open source software against or versus proprietary software, well, open source software was the most logical choice for so many reasons, if you could choose. But now that you can also use the cloud is incredibly more convenient for many reasons. And this is creating problem to open source. Look, for example, at how Amazon is behaving in respect to some open source vendors. They fork the software, they make their own products, they sell them, and open source vendors don't earn any money from this. Right?
And yeah, that's actually true. Even if I think, if I think about the biggest one they have done, well, they even have announced a couple of them last week, because at the end, when they say Amazon for Prometheus, Amazon for Grafana, you wonder, I mean, the company behind triggers a nice press release saying they are super excited to work together, but that's the press release. You never really know what was reality. At the same time, it's true that many of those companies not only survive, but thrive after, because, I don't know, they get bigger market share. I have no idea. But as you said, yes, it somehow is convenient. And when convenient is, it's like, I'm thinking about MongoDB when Amazon did their, what was that, DocumentDB? And the argument was, it's not as good as Atlas. Doesn't support just one version. The problem is that Amazon is really selective. They support the version that they care about. Yeah. The subset of feature that is good enough for most customers. Of course, it's not the full product. Of course, it's not the best product.
Yeah.
But often, as you say, this convenience. You don't want to have a second vendor to handle it. You don't have to deal with GDPR and all the other things you have to deal with. You have multiple compliance to handle this. It's just a service. It's just one click. It's said, yes, in some sense. And I think it's said that on the license part is they fork, and of course, as they don't sell the product, they are not supposed. In some product, they do it to redistribute the code. In some other, they don't. So it would be nice actually to see what they did. It's not the problem if Aurora is much better or not as a MySQL colon, but I think the community would really love to see that code.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah, exactly. And these forks are never open source because it's not in cloud vendors' interest. They want to have their software, which can only be used if you have their services.
There are some projects that they have open source, but that's usually because they are trying to attract integration from external provider. So they are very selective projects, and so not the core one, as you mentioned. I mean, they're not.
Yes. It's not RDS. It's not similar things. Yeah.
It's not where they're making most of the money, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Do you often help companies to migrate between different systems?
You mean operating system? No, never done it.
No. Oh, never done it. Okay. No. What would be, in your opinion, the challenges?
I think it depends. I have no idea. I mean, to me, it really depends what you do as a company. I mean, if the company you work for is providing, for example, a product that you distribute, you can distribute a container, you can distribute as a virtual machine, you can distribute the way you want, but you probably certify, you test it, you do something on an operating system. Will that work on another one? Yeah, most likely. I mean, most of it, but it depends what greater support you have to offer and how many version you want to support, how big you are as a company, and how you try to. So would you be able to support a second operating system or a second major one plus some other? Well, maybe yes, but it's extra effort, and to keep the same quality and to make sure, because as well, one of the problem is you want to make sure that what you give to a customer is, as well, when you tell customer A, please install this product C on operating system D, ideally you would have dog fooded yourself. So you should feel confident that what you're telling them to do is working. If you are working on something similar but not the same, well, you might be lucky. Might be your lucky year. This year doesn't sound so lucky. So
yeah.
So migration, I don't know. I mean, it really depends, I guess, on the customer as well. It depends if the customer, the relation between the customer and yourself. I mean, if the customer is the big enterprise and you are the small guy or the small company or the middle-sized company, you're not going to tell them which operating system that you have to, you're going to, you cannot, well, you can, but can you go there and say, oh, instead of Red Hat, you're going to support Ubuntu? Maybe, but maybe they tell you, well, we work with Red Hat and we want to keep working with Red Hat. And that's where having CentOS was helpful to be able to cover that.
Yeah, of course. What I was thinking is, well, of course, in the specific case of switching from CentOS to another Linux distro, is, well, first of all, there will be a problem with tooling. I mean, not for small companies, but for medium to big companies, well, they will have some tooling already in place, which work. And if you switch to something else, probably a lot of changes will be needed. Because
it's the devil of the details. Sometimes you think like everything is supported officially. It's like if I say, okay, oh, well, I want to use the new Graviton 2 instances of Amazon. Oh, can I switch to a new processor, ARM? Oh, yes. There's a JDK? Yes, there's a JDK. Oh, there's a Tomcat? Yes, there's a Tomcat. There's a MySQL? Yes, there is. Can I move my application? Yes, you can. Then you run it, and suddenly you find maybe not big bugs, but a couple of bugs, a couple of libraries that you had precompiled that you even forgot that you had. And suddenly your migration that you thought is going to take 2 weeks is going to take 2 months or 2 quarters. And that's a feeling I have about those things. It's easy to forecast and say no problems, but it's usually something you don't want to do. And that's why it was good the status quo until now to have a distribution that was reliable. That was what people wanted.
And that's especially true if you switch to a Debian-based distro, because you will have AppArmor instead of Linux. You may have problems with AppArmor killing your processes. You will switch to a different package manager with different dependencies, and so on. So
and I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I wanted to say that as well. We have the feeling that often we all say, oh, upstream or the latest version or whatever. And it's cool for our own nice little project. Maybe it's cool. And I'm sure there are a few companies out there that are always on the latest version and very ahead of the curve. Early adopters, very early adopters. The reality is that the vast majority, I don't have numbers, but the vast majority, I have the feeling that they're not that ahead. Many are still on the 7, some are even probably on the 6, end of life. It's a bit the same with like databases. I mean, sometimes you think like, I don't know you see many graphs that tell you which one are the most common version now for MySQL or whatever else. And you feel like, oh yeah, now it's 30%, now it's 32, according to which poll you're going to trust. But then you realize like, I don't know. I see, for example, Amazon comes out now with a new serverless version, and they are defaulting. The first version they're going to support is 5.7. It's not 8, it's 5.7. Why? Are they stupid? No, probably because they know that most of their deployment are not on 8. Most of their customers don't need 8. So I think on the operating system is more or less the same. They are the one that want to be upstream, they want to be ahead of the curve, but most want reliable stuff that up to end of life, more or less. It's just almost all in the enterprise sector. It's just
yeah. And the other problem is commercial, because with CentOS they had very long support.
Yes.
Not with CentOS 8, but with CentOS 7 they had.
Yeah, and it's now cut a bit short, but it's very.
It's not very easy to find very long support.
Yeah, but I think that's the business model. They want that you switch to the one that pay. It's a bit the same model that Oracle introduced for the Java JDK, when they say, oh, well, the 8 is the last. I mean, at the end, the problem is that no one is really following their rolling release every 6 months. Almost everyone is still on the 8 or the 11 if you're really lucky. And either you find some alternative, but then alternative come up, because that's what happened there as well. People were saying, oh, well, now what? And then someone is going to take that market. And now I'm just curious to see who is going to take the market. I don't know enough to know to bet on someone, but I mean, I'm sure that something is going to happen.
Yeah. So Rajendra wrote, customers need to ask to isolate the OS from application and from data. Yes.
Ideally, yes.
Ideally, yes. Maybe it's not always very possible, but
yeah, it should be, but it's often you have as well a lot of legacy. You have a lot of things that are going on, and that's what I mean. They are probably the one ahead of the curve that can do it, but they are still think is the minority. I mean, most people are not there yet. But that's.
But I can tell you something related. I'm sorry if it's dirty advertisement, but anyway.
We are Italian, so it's fine if we go over the time. The time is.
No, there is sort of a repository made by Vetabase, which is called Veta Archive, which is very old versions of database software.
That's mean, a good idea, actually.
Yeah, and
the one you cannot find anymore on the Oracle site, even if you log in, and they are probably hidden after 4 different pages. Even if they are there,
exactly,
it's impossible to find them.
Exactly. I'm not sure now, but I seem to remember the oldest one is MySQL 4.0, which is very, very old, like 20 years ago. And yes, you cannot find it anymore. And the nice thing is I've also made containers for this. No, I mean, because if you're using one of those very old versions and you lose your server somehow, it's nice to have a way to set it up again very quickly. So it's good to have a container. And the nice thing is, on purpose, I used the most modern version of Ubuntu for
to run the oldest.
Yes, and it works. I was prepared, of course, to switch to something older if needed, but I didn't have any problems. So there is kind of a coupling, right, between the system and the software.
What's the oldest one you are supporting, actually, in terms of database engine that you really had to support again in life? Still, I'm sure there are still people around with 5.0 or whatever.
I had to support 5.0, but it was not very recently. It was probably like couple of years ago, I think. Yeah, but yeah, it was already very old anyway. Yes. And I know there is still 5.0 around, because I saw it in some statistics published by some cloud provider or something.
They still have installation of that.
Yes, it was a relevant number.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have something you want to add?
Nothing. Just I still myself don't know what's the way forward. I mean, if I should jump and find something and hurry up and find alternative, or wait and look and wait a few months, I'm probably more in the second side at the moment, hoping for the best.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see what's going to happen anyway.
I'm also curious. Let me answer to Rajendra again, who says, very nice idea for archive. Federico, is it open source? Well, the software itself is open source, and I'm not sure if the source is available still, because it's very hard to find it. The Docker containers are open source because the Docker files are on GitHub, on database.
It's a very, very cool project.
Yeah. So, I think that's all.
We can wrap it up. Okay.
We talked for 40 minutes, and it's quite common because we're Italian, and Italians talk a lot. So it's been great to have this chat with you. It's been great to talk with Rajendra and the others who wrote hello. And hope to see you soon and talk about something even more interesting next time.
Looking forward to it.
Isn't maybe. Yeah.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.